Benito is a really good neighbor.
From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems, and real therapists. You can submit your questions anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. It's getting colder outside with each passing day, but don't you worry. You have Pod Therapy and the sweet, sultry voices of two therapists in their pipe tobacco-scented tweed jackets to keep your soul toasty warm. Broadcasting from the churn, that guy's Dr. Jim Jobin. I'm Nick Tangeman. It's time for some Pod Therapy.
Hold on, I can't get this pipe lit.
I think I'm going to start requiring that you two wear those jackets.
I actually may bring it
Dress
tomorrow,
code in the churn.
because I do have one.
You do? You actually have
jacket
one?
It's
with
not
the elbow
tweed.
patches.
It does have the elbow patches. It's not tweed, though.
If
But
it has
it's
the elbow
herring-
patches, you're fine.
herringbone.
That's fine.
I'll allow
that's
it.
So
that's
it's-
standard.
I'll allow it.
It's close enough.
Standard dress code, yeah.
I will. I probably can't smoke in here. Otherwise, I'd bring a cigar too.
No, can't do that.
I'll let you chew on a cigar.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's good enough.
There you
Yeah,
go.
I'll do
Just
that.
bite it.
Yeah.
It's for the look. I don't light it. That's what Will Smith says. He's
Yeah.
kind of a hero. He's kind of. I look up to him. Shit! No, you can't throw things at me this early. We didn't even get into the show yet. If I have too much head trauma, I won't be able to get through the A block. Well, everybody, it is December. December's off and running. We are recording this a little. Still got hit. God, that was like an alley up too. He just like woo, just like over the edge, just like a hook shot. God, he got me. We are recording this one at the end of November because it was my birthday, so we wanted to get ahead of it by a week. If you have not gone to dadvicebook.com, please go to dadvicebook.com and buy my book. Help me out. It took a long time to do it, and I'd love for you to read it and be a part of it, and so that'll be fun. And maybe one day in the near future, or maybe in the first part of first quarter, maybe we'll do a book club about it. That could be fun. Mm-hmm. It's the only way I'll ensure that Nick actually does engage with the book, so if I monitor that. So we will get...
Oh, I can't wait to rip it apart.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, that's actually the
Literally.
thing to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's not even going to just stare at me across the table, just peeling paper out of it.
Oh, I like that picture a lot.
This is the best $10 I've ever spent in my life.
Nick's ordering it right now.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
I'm just
I'm
going to
already just jumping on there.
pre-order.
So in the A block today, there's a topic that we've been kind of thinking about doing for a really long time, and a lot of folks have actually mentioned it, and we've, I think, passively kind of touched on it a little bit in the past, but we've never sat down and really unpacked the idea. And the idea is something that is part of developmental psychology, but it's kind of bled over into relationship therapy, and it's something called attachment styles.
Yes, I'm very excited for this because I don't know a whole lot about it.
Yeah.
As a drug and alcohol specialist, I don't really get into this, but I know just enough to know what I think I am.
Yeah, I think I know what you are too. Yeah, it's actually funny because I was going over which one I am, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's why we
I'll
were.
see if you and Laura agree.
Yeah, I think.
which
Oh,
one
I
I
already
am.
know what you are. That's
Yeah.
when. Yeah, it's funny. I was on the drive here. I was like, I know which one he is. We'll see. So first, I want to kind of recap the history of this. So this guy John Bowlby, he was this English psychologist, and he had come up with this theory. And basically, what attachment theory was in the beginning was describing this interesting phenomenon of how humans, at the beginning of our lifespan, develop bonds. Because we all know that, okay, humans are this tribal animal, there's a lot of this instinctive pairing, there's a lot of importance in evolution, that babies cling to caregivers for their own survival, and he was interested in studying that. And so the theory began with noticing how infants at different ages pair with their caregiver. And so the basic idea is, you've probably heard this phrase, it's a common phrase, a secure attachment. And secure attachment in a child is whenever they can kind of, explore the room, they go play with toys, they come back to their caregiver, they check in, and you'll just see little kids do this. They'll go back to mom, they'll go back to dad, they'll stand up next to them, put a hand on them or whatever, crawl over to them, and just, be in vicinity, and they'll go back into the world. If you see a little kid doing that, that's what Bowlby would call secure attachment. And then he also analyzed different other types of attachment.
That's exactly what my dog does.
Yeah.
Not even kidding. That's just what
Yeah,
my
that's
dog
probably
does.
a thing. Yeah, dogs patrol the house and they tend to come back to their owner, check in, and just kind of go around. So he was observing that phenomenon. And so the theory really began with unpacking that. And what was interesting is, as he studied that more and more, he started to theorize that the kind of experiences we sometimes have as kids and the way we paired with our caregivers and the way we interacted with family in the beginning might actually influence the kind of adult we become and the relationship style that we have. And so this kind of bled over into his more adult theory, which later he said, didn't necessarily have much to do with your childhood. But there's the same patterns applied, that there was essentially these methods or styles that humans had when it came to their attachments. Okay, so this is the theory that he came up with. It's been expanded upon quite a bit, and in the 50s and 60s, it really started getting applied more and more to relationships. So the idea is that humans have these ways of interacting with their loved ones, especially like in a bonded pair, so that might be their spouse or mate or whatever, or in their friendships. And these styles are just... you can categorize them as healthier and unhealthier, that's okay. But they're also there. They're also just categories that humans tend to fall into.
More of an issue of how you adapt to them.
Right.
Than saying this is bad.
Not necessarily bad,
right.
But you could become a problem,
right.
So you need to definitely understand that about yourself. Mm-hmm. So, there's lots and lots of personality tests online. If you type in attachment style quiz, you can find tons of stuff and just take a quick quiz. But honestly, you don't need to. I think if you just kind of hear it described, there's only, 4 big categories is generally the consensus about this. And if you just hear it described, I think you can pretty much know who you are. And I think you can kind of know who your mates are. So real quick, I want to break them down, and then we can kind of dive into more details about them. But here's kind of the way you think about it. So the most basic one is, what we would probably describe as the healthier one. And we call that one securely attached, okay? So a person who's securely attached, they're confident with their mate. They feel, good about themselves in the relationship. They don't necessarily feel fearful that the other person's going to leave them. They're not necessarily insecure. They're effective communicators. They don't manipulate much in the relationship. They're comfortable with the closeness that they have. They don't necessarily pull away if things start to get too close. They start to feel too vulnerable. They're quickly forgiving. They can handle sex. They can handle emotional intimacy. That doesn't push them away. It's not something they're constantly chasing. It's just there. They're good with it. They can impact their relationship positively. They can care for their partner. They can receive care themselves. And so in summary, they're just kind of like your great partner, right? Like they treat their people well. They don't tend to, be, very, negative. And they're not afraid to give, feedback. They're not afraid to ask for their needs to be met. So a securely attached adult in a relationship is the kind of person that you just kind of look at and say, okay, they're good. Like they can be in their relationship. They're not necessarily fearful in it. And they're not necessarily pushing anybody away. They're just really well calibrated, okay? That's what we would consider a secure attachment. Now contrast that with the other 3. The second one is anxious preoccupied. So anxious preoccupied people in their attachment style, these are the folks that they are clingy. They are scared. They feel insecure. They feel like they're going to lose their mate. They feel like this person's going to reject them. They're constantly seeking, I think, reassurance and kind of like, to stave off their own anxiousness, right? They're preoccupied. So these folks, tend to have, high levels of emotional expressiveness. They're worrisome. They're impulsive with their relationships. They are kind of constantly needing to be, engaged with them. And so that can be, tricky because interestingly, this kind of person, this second type, which again, we're calling anxious preoccupied, that style tends to be attracted to and tends to be in relationship with the third style, which is called dismissive avoidant. So people that are in the dismissive avoidant category, these are the people that are detached. They don't seem very vulnerable. They don't seem very emotionally expressive. You get the feeling sometimes that they don't care, or that they're just, kind of stoic about it, like you couldn't hurt them if you broke up with them, if you told them, like if you tell the anxious person, the anxious preoccupied person, I don't think we should be together, they're going to lose it. They're going to be like, no, we can't do that. What is this? No, there's got to be a way to work this out. I can't lose you. I can't imagine losing you. Like that's a really big fear for them. If you say that to the dismissive avoidant person, the third style, they'll go, okay, Yeah, no, that works for me. I understand it. Sorry to see you go. Move on. And you can kind of be stunned by that and be like, did you ever care about me? Like, what was the deal here? Like, where are we standing? But the person who's dismissive...
Do you even know when my birthday is?
Yeah, do you even know that my birthday?
Oh, don't. Let's not get into that.
Oh, the wounds are still fresh. You know what? Let's actually take a second to... No. So dismissive avoidant people, they seem invulnerable in that sense. They're very self-sufficient. They don't need close relationships necessarily. They tend to suppress their own feelings. They deal with conflict by distancing themselves from their partners. And so sometimes that comes off as sort of being emotionally stunted or not having a tight relationship or not being deeply interested in the other person. And it's a way that they balance out their vulnerability. It's just they kind of are self-protective. They tend to be focused on their own lives. They tend to focus on their own self-esteem. They're disproportionately involved in themselves, which is interesting because I believe that this category represents part of the map. Like, if you're a long-term listener of the show, you've heard me go nuts on this discussion and debate about narcissistic personality disorder. And it just drives me crazy. And every time I go to mental health Instagram or mental health TikTok, it's constantly this.
Is that the username?
Yeah. So really, it's at mental health TikTok. But no, it's constantly this. It's always how to deal with a narcissist, what to do when a narcissist, you break up with a narcissist breaks up with you. And I honestly think the vast majority of that is people in the second type, anxious, preoccupied, dating and having bad relationships with people in the third type, dismissive, avoidant. You could misunderstand a dismissive, avoidant person as a narcissist and say they don't care. They're dispassionate. They're completely, non-empathetic. They're a sociopath. No, they're not. They have dismissive, avoidant attachment style. They're just in their own lane, and they're okay with that. And, they can walk away, and that doesn't mean they don't care. It means they're gathered and collected, and that's how they protect themselves, is they're not necessarily in that same boat. So that's that style. The fourth style is sort of a blend of 2 and 3. So the fourth style is called fearful avoidant, and this is the roller coaster. This is the roller coaster where they go through periods where they seek that vulnerability, where they have that vulnerability, where they're chasing the person, they need that. There's a sense of dependency, and then they also pull away. When things get too real, too close, they start to feel too exposed, and they go toward the other side, where they're kind of pulling away from the person. And sometimes I think this gets misunderstood as borderline personality disorder when it might not be. It just might be an attachment style of fearful avoidance. And so it's kind of that roller coaster. It's up and down. So when you look at the 4 styles that Bowlby's talking about here, and you think about them in relationship, I think that it's a very interesting thing to hear those descriptions, because as you hear them, you think, I've definitely met people like that. You've met people that are in secure attached relationships. Both partners seem very good with things. They're not very scared. They're not insecure. They're not jealous types. They're not, worried all the time. They're not very codependent. We've also seen the anxious ones, where and that's another thing, interestingly. People in that second category, the anxious type, they tend to be having... That tends to be a category that involves people that are rescuers, that want to be needed, and so they go look for people that are damaged, broken, something going on, because they want to be enmeshed. They want to be that person that can get in there and feel like they're absolutely necessary to their person's life. And so they tend to be in that category too. And then you have that third type again, which is sort of more independent. But again, they can come off as sort of shut off and sort of avoidant and dismissive, which, can be very hurtful. And those 2 and 3 categories, the anxious, preoccupied and the dismissive avoidant, according to the research, they tend to pair up. And that can be interesting. And so there's value to learning about these styles. They do change over time. They do change as you grow, as you go through relationships, as you experience things, especially as you do things like therapy and confront cognitive distortions and your own underlying core beliefs and things like that. Certainly humans change. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so these styles are an interesting way to think about us in the way that we do relationships. By studying them and understanding them within ourselves, we can illuminate some of the patterns we have. And then we can see that in our spouse too, or our mate, or our dating life. And I think that that's useful information. It's not destiny, but it's useful to learn that about yourself. So that's Bowlby's attachment styles.
Interesting. So I think I have an idea kind of where I fall.
Sure. So what is which one of those did you kind of feel like you identify a little bit more with?
Probably the third one.
Third one. That was my guess. That was my guess. So unpack why that is. Why, when you think about the attachment style of that was the dismissive one, dismissive avoidant, the person who tends to be overly independent, self-reliant in that sense. If anything is accused of being uncaring,
Yes.
Unpack
I mean,
that.
I even remember at one point I had a boss that was definitely the number two.
Yeah, the anxious and preoccupied.
And she was involved. I was a supervisor at a treatment program.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't involved in the day-to-day lives of every one of the clients. She was above me, but she had to be involved in everything. She had her hands in every tiny little thing that was going on in everybody's lives, not only the staff, but the clients as well. And she would react immediately to things, just constant. And I never, like, everything was an emergency. Everything was oh my God, we got to deal with this right now.
Right.
Everybody drop
Hair on
everything you're
fire.
doing. Yes. And I was not like that at all. When something happened, I was usually very kind of calm, collected about the thing. I was like, okay, well, let's see what's going on and let's come up with a plan. And it used to annoy her. I mean, she would get really angry with me because she interpreted that as I don't care. And I'd say, no, I care a lot. I'm just not going to overreact to this situation. It does us no good.
Right.
I think I'm kind of the same way in relationships as well.
Right.
Where if something happens, now this isn't always the case, but I would say for the most part, I'm usually pretty calm and collected about a situation. Okay, well, let's deal with this. Let's come up with a plan. Let's figure something out.
Right.
And I don't have a whole lot of... Things don't have a whole lot of sentimental meaning to me either. You mentioned this as we were coming in the building.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I
you have a story about
that.
But other people have told me about that too. Like, there are some things that have value to me, sentimental value.
Right.
But for the most part, most things don't. Like, I'm not the type that's going to hold on to something because it has sentimental value to me.
Right. Yeah. It's funny because the story I told, it was related to this because I was telling you, like, I had gone through the attachment styles and I think I know which one you are. And I was thinking of a story where we had both worked at a place that you had created. You had founded this place, this program, and I had inherited it from you. And we worked side by side for about 6 months, and then you had moved on. And it was your last day of work, and I had, kind of said, hey, man, it's the last day, here in the office. Do you want me to leave, and give you some time to say goodbye to this bitch? And you looked around and you said, goodbye, bitch. And you walked out the door. And I was like, what? Like, I would have been holding the stapler, like remembering the first day I walked in and looking at touching the walls, stapled something. I remember you forever, Sally, the stapler. I also name a lot of office
All
supplies.
the good stapling we did.
This is why I get so attached. But that's very interesting, right? Yeah. And so that attachment style, again, nothing wrong with that, fundamentally, right? But some people can misperceive that and say, "Oh my gosh, you don't care at all." Like your coworker said, "You don't care." No, I do care. But I'm also kind of, self-reliant, self-possessed. Like, I kind of pull away from things. I don't necessarily get enmeshed, right? And so that's an attachment style. Right, tends to be more in the self-reliant category. I am absolutely more in the second category, which is the anxious. I think everybody playing Jim's Neurotic Bingo already had that one marked. Anxious preoccupied. It's funny because when you go deeper into it, people with anxious preoccupied, I was laughing. So I was like, oh, this is me. People that are anxious preoccupied will say things like, they'll go to their mate and be like, do you still love me? You still love me, right? Like, and they're like, yeah, Jesus. Like, yeah, I do. I have to do this every day.
Less
at
so
noon.
now.
Yeah, less, but yes. I have done that my entire life. Like, I can't help it. I'll get in my head and I'll be like, I just need to check in. And I just need to, be reminded, from time to time. So I'll approach my spouse, and I did this, throughout my dating life, where I'd approach, my mate and just be like, are we okay? Is everything okay? Have I pushed you away? And they're like, what? Like, no, everything's cool. And I'm like, okay, are you mad at me? I'm like, no.
Getting there.
I'm getting there.
Getting close.
Yes.
I wasn't a moment
I
ago.
wasn't,
Yeah.
but now I am. So, yeah, and so there can be a little bit of codependency. I've struggled with that, where I've had to recognize those patterns of codependency and say, okay, Jim, hold on. Are you allowing a situation to affect your emotions? Are you feeling too entangled with this? Let's take that deep breath and pull back, right? And it's okay. That person's not mad at you. You don't have to. And I do that in my friendships, and I do that in relationships. We're like, are we cool? Are we okay? Or whatever it is. Again, that's that paranoid, anxious kind of attachment style that says, I need to be reassured. I need to be needed. I need to, I'm scared of losing it. And so, like, I'm worried about that
My
a lot.
opinions on Twitter need to be heard.
They need to be heard, damn it. I have important news that the world needs to hear. So, yeah. So I think that, Jacob, as you heard those types, do you happen to resonate with any of them? Secure attachment, sort of that, base balance kind of type, anxious type where you're kind of like more clingy, needy, the one that's dismissive and kind of avoidant where...
I don't think I'm that.
Okay.
I don't think I'm clingy, and I don't think I'm dismissive.
Might be more in the stable category. Might be more secure.
Maybe.
Yeah. Unless you oscillate wildly between both of those poles, in which case you'd be the fourth type, fearful and avoidant.
I'm definitely not that.
So probably more in the secure side. Where,
Yeah, I'm pretty okay.
which is
I'm pretty okay
yeah.
with that kind of thing.
Yeah. And so that makes sense. In relationship, it sounds like you're saying, I notice that I'm pretty secure about it. I'm not necessarily constantly needing to be reminded that everything's okay.
Possibly overly secure.
It's too secure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Possibly into the realm of taking things for granted. Like it might bleed over into that a little bit sometimes.
I might need a dose of that anxious side.
Yeah.
It's a
Might
course
need
correct
a little
a
more
little bit.
anxiety.
Fair enough.
It's actually funny you brought this up because I don't think Laura would mind me saying this. She definitely falls into that.
Nazi.
The fifth one.
The fifth one. Falls into
National Socialist Party.
the second group of the anxious
Yeah.
type.
Yeah, she and I are birds of a feather in that sense.
Yeah. And so I can definitely understand that need for constant reassurance. And then from the person in my position, the third type,
Right.
having to constantly reassure.
Right.
And then so now you see the dynamics
Yes.
of how as one tries to move closer because they feel the other one's pulling away.
The other one starts to pull away.
Yeah, the other one starts pulling away because it's like, why are you in my space,
Exactly.
man? Why are you right here?
Exactly. And that's what's interesting in those dynamics too. That third type, the dismissive avoidant, that's part of the profile is like they can feel squished. They can feel a little intruded upon, and they kind of need to breathe. And they're pulling away. That's not a rejection. It's not, I don't care for you. It's just my attachment style is that I'm great and I have a 30-yard leash.
Well, yeah,
like,
it's almost, to use an analogy of like personal space.
Yeah.
It's like each of us likes 6 feet as a personal amount of space.
Right.
But the difference is that neither of us is good at identifying what is 6 feet.
Right, yeah.
Like we don't have a
Nearsighted
tape measure,
and farsighted.
Right? Yeah. So for one, 6 feet may feel like 4 feet.
Right.
And then
right.
for the other, may feel like more.
Right.
So as you get closer to me, I'm like, that's not 6 feet.
Yeah.
So I'll take 2 steps back. Okay, that's 6 feet. And then they're like, why do you keep going 12 feet away from me?
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it. And again, Laura and I are probably cut from that same cloth because I am absolutely that way. Oh, power
What just happened? Oh, that was my fault.
Okay, we're back on.
Yeah.
Everything's still working?
Yep.
Okay, we just drifted out there for a second.
It was actually just Jim's mic.
Oh, okay. That was order 66.
Yeah.
He's been preparing that one.
The rest of us missed nothing.
But yeah, no, I resonate with that. Like for me, and I think a lot of people like me because obviously there's 4 categories and like there's a lot of us are in this style. If I don't talk to a person for too long of a period of time, like I didn't see them all day, or something like that, I start to wonder, are they avoiding me? Like, is everything okay? Like, I need to check in. Like, I need to make sure that we're cool. I need something reassuring said to me that seems like we're good. And like, I can leave it once I know we're cool. But if something is like passively said that's weird, that will sit with me. And I'll be like, what the hell's going on? Are they mad at me? Like, did I do something wrong? And I'm thinking about that for the next 3 hours, until I get to check in and get reassured that everything's cool. And I know you're not like that. I 100% know you're not like that.
Yeah. I mean, I care about stuff.
It isn't that you don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And if I genuinely think like, oh, did I come off? Did I say something?
Yeah, you're introspective.
That's a little bit different.
Right.
But yeah, it's not something that really takes up a whole lot of
and in the
time.
theory, there's a lot of work that develops into this theory, and they play with it and you can color in a lot of different ways. There's a whole method in here called the cave, and so like the dismissive avoidant tends to have the cave mentality, which is like I sometimes just need to pull away and kind of regroup, and that's, again, it's an attachment style. Like that is, they're still attached, but they have this invulnerability that they kind of like, they pull away when they feel a little too crowded. And again, if you're part of the other side, where you're more like the anxious preoccupied, you're reading into that. And that's another telltale thing of anxious preoccupieds is like, we tend to read into every text. We reread them 3 or 4 times to make sure we get this. Like, what the hell did this mean? And like, again, it's an interesting pairing because you put those two people together. One of them's pulling away, one of them's running toward. And when you're running toward, the other person's running away. And now here we are, and we're getting into these battles that don't need to happen.
Yeah, I get that a lot.
It's a paradox.
Yes, it's a pair of ducks. Exactly. It's just, wait, what? Those are, you sent me a definition. I'll have to revisit that.
Yeah, because every once in a while, Laura kind of points out things in my behavior.
Right.
Like she's been studying my behavior.
That's great.
And it's like, and she'll point out some things like, you never, no, what's wrong? You never do that.
That reminds me of the scene on Airplane.
Yeah, I was just saying.
John never has 2 cups of coffee at home.
Yeah, exactly.
That is one of my favorite bits. Yeah. So knowing your attachment style, guys, and then studying the attachment styles of people in your family, your close friends, your mate, whoever is important to you, why this is valuable is I think it gives us more self-awareness, right? And self-awareness leads to positive growth and positive change. And by recognizing I have this style of attachment, it causes me to change over time. I'll tell you that in my relationship history, me as a young man, I'm going to be 35, and by the time you're hearing this, I am 35. Me in my early...
You have a birthday coming up?
I have a birthday coming up. It's December 1st.
God, we
it's
didn't hear
terrible.
about that.
Oh, it's just terrible.
Why are you just telling us now?
Go to dadvicebook.com. Buy my book. That's my birthday gift. Buy my book, dadvicebook.com. But yeah, in my early 20s, I was a mess relationally. I was constantly... I couldn't keep things together because I was always self-sabotaging the relationships, And like, I can honestly say that at this stage of my life, I'm a lot closer to secure attachment. And I don't think you fall directly into a box. I don't think it's a bucket that you can discreetly fall into. I think that there's zones and there's overlap in the Venn. And you do kind of migrate from zone to zone throughout life. And I'll tell you that today I'm migrating towards secure attachment where I know who I am. I know I'm going to be okay no matter what. I'm not necessarily seeking that reassurance as much. But sure, I still have those tendencies. I have to recognize them, and I make sure that I balance that out by using cognitive behavioral therapy, honestly, and telling myself the truth to combat anxious thoughts and cognitive distortions. Mm-hmm. So
I'll tell you what you do if you just really want to turn Jim into a mess. And that is, as you're walking out of the room, just say something a little bit snarky.
And anti-Semitic.
Just say something like, yeah, Jim, take care of yourself. I mean, I know you will anyway.
Huh?
And then just leave the room.
What's that supposed to mean?
Yeah. And then he's
Am I selfish?
Calling you in 5
saying
minutes.
I'm selfish?
Hey, just wanted to check in.
Yeah, I just wanted to did you I think I left something in the studio.
Yeah, don't do that if you don't want to get a phone call from Jim later.
You will get a follow-up text. If I get some kind of cryptic, it's unsettled message, I'll be like, are they mad at me? They're mad at me. I need to reach out. Hey, I just want to make sure we're cool. Yeah, I am absolutely that guy. So know your attachment style, folks. And again, it's not to weaponize mental health. It's not to label people. We hate that on Pod Therapy. It's real science. There's really good theory behind this. And I think it's useful to study that about
especially
yourself.
In relationships. It's good to know where I'm at, where the other person's at, so we know when I do this is how they interpret it.
Yes.
So if I know that's how they're going to interpret it, what else can I do to not change what I'm going to do?
Right.
Because I'm still going to do what's comfortable to me.
Sure.
But can I add something to it that sends a different message?
Yes. How are they hearing
exactly?
This? Yeah. That's good to know. Obviously, like if you have a podcast with Jim and you realize he's going to be all fucking nervous and weird if I don't send him another text, like, let me send him a text so he'll leave me alone. Like, that's fine. That's fine. Just saying, text me back, Nick. You just leave me on red.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you this: Is there a wrong way to be?
Of the 4?
Yeah.
I don't know that
is there a way that is inherently more unhealthy than the others?
Yes.
You think so?
Yes. I think the fourth type, the one that's the blend of multiple things, the fearful...
The one that fluctuates
fearful
drastically
avoidant.
between the two?
Yeah, I
ask this because we go through a lot of things where you guys talk about these things, and then it kind of comes back to all of these are fine as long as you are kind of okay within this bubble.
And you know how to navigate it.
Right. So is this one of those types of things, or is this something that has inherent bad things that go along with
this? Has all four of them, except for secure attachment. So the other three all have inherent downsides that if a person does not become self-aware of, can cause them to self-sabotage their relationships. If Nick doesn't become self-aware that he can sometimes come off as uncaring and stoic, he will accidentally have repercussions in his relationships. He needs to study himself.
But I guess what I think Jacob is saying, and kind of what I would agree with, is that it's not something that, okay, we're not going to set out to fix it.
No,
we
not
set out
necessarily
to understand it and adapt to it.
Adapt to it, yes.
So it's if we were talking like a medical model,
right?
It's a condition that you continue to treat, but not ever actually cure it.
Yes, yeah. It's realizing that you speak with a small impediment on certain letters. So then you're thoughtful about the way you speak. You enunciate on certain words, and you put a little bit of extra effort into it because you're aware.
But none of these we would say, if you fall into this category, oh, you're screwed.
We gotta fix it.
No. Right. It's a spectrum. It's a spectrum of your attachment style. And it also doesn't have a ton to do with like, oh, you did something wrong or you've come upon this. A lot of it seems to be, in Bowlby's work, he seems to describe it as, no, it seems to be related to family style. It seems to be related to the way you were raised. And your first impressions of love and first impressions of romance, if you've ever been hurt, and how you've coped with that. They're all essentially coping styles, where the securely attached either have overcome their pain and fear in a really, healthy way, or they haven't really been hurt a lot, and so they are pretty pure as the driven snow here, like they're good. So there's a secureness to that.
That's interesting, because I would describe my childhood as pretty much being by myself, but being fine with it.
Yeah, that would lead right to
I was perfectly
style.
fine, just playing in my room with my Star Wars toys by myself.
Right.
Or, I would hang out with the neighborhood kids and we would, play football outside or we'd do something like that.
Right.
But I'm perfectly fine doing that, perfectly fine being
alone
by myself.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Mine a little bit different, kind of grew up alone in the beginning, but always needed to check in and like have somebody to reassure me, to play with me, to talk to me. Had to have that, and so different attachment style there too, for sure. So none of them are wrong, friends, but learn it. It's good information for yourself.
Except for Jim's.
Except for mine. Don't do mine.
Jim's is definitely whatever Jim is.
Don't do that.
That's wrong.
You don't want to be that one. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about falling out of the core family. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
This week's that's not the right one.
You're not the right one.
Pull it together.
They're all fine, Nick. It's all in how you navigate it.
That's right. This week's Theraproducer sponsors are Elio Dare, Judy Schneider, and Mason Miller. Thank you for supporting the show. Our first trivia question, the theme is Mexico.
Mexico.
Avocados.
All right. Oh, all right. We got it. Who is the current president of Mexico?
El Guapo.
Now, I knew we would not know as Americans. We don't know much about our neighbors. So I'll give you multiple choice.
I believe it's Justin Trudeau.
Yes. Yeah, he nailed it. That was it.
President of Mexico. Is it A, Diego Luna, B, Vicente Fox, C, Javier Hernandez, D, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, or E, Selma Hayek?
Okay.
D.
If it's E, I'm moving to Mexico tomorrow. That is a huge
If you'd like to
crush.
join the Theraproducers and make the show possible, you can go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's patreon.com/therapy.
I think it's D. It might be C.
It's not Vicente Fox. Vicente Fox is an actor.
That was B, right?
Yeah. That was B.
Okay.
And
no,
he's not.
Oh, he's the former president.
He is.
Aha!
Yeah, I knew it wasn't him.
And now he's pursuing his acting career. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you didn't know that. You don't know Vicente.
Okay.
I follow his email list. All right, so it's not Vicente Fox. It's not Selma Hayek. I'm going with Diego. That feels right.
Diego Luna?
Yes.
Which one is that? Is that A?
A.
Yeah, I think it's D.
You're right. It's D.
Damn it!
Yes, Diego Luna is an actor.
Well, of course he
Yes,
is.
and Javier Hernandez is a soccer player.
Okay.
Or football.
Oh, is that how they pronounce it? I believe it's pronounced
That was
football avocado.
I was unsure about that one because I knew that I recognized that name.
Right.
So that's what made I was like, I know that name, but I'm not sure where I know it. I don't know where I know it from.
Yeah. Also, Selma Hayek 2024. That's the platform that I want to support.
Fine with that.
I'm good with that all
Fine with
day
that.
long. Dusk till dawn, in fact. All right. Falling
We just
out.
watched Dusk Till Dawn a couple weeks ago.
Good
Great
movie.
movie.
Yeah.
Holds up. Movie.
Oh,
Holds up.
yes, it
Just
does.
as good as it ever was.
Damn
Take
right.
that statement however you'd like.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Letter says, I'm in my 20s, a part of a family consisting of a mother in her 50s, sister, brother-in-law in their 30s, 3 nieces and nephews who are in the single digits. While we've always been close, particularly my sister and me, we've somewhat drifted ever since I moved to another part of the state for college 10 years ago. I love them dearly, and we have a great time together when I come back into town about 4 or 5 times a year. The worst of this is likely that I'm a terrible communicator, so when away, we'll go a while without speaking to one another. This is the 3rd year in a row I've noticed that I'm not included in these adorable yet corny AF Christmas decorations around my sister's household. You know, tree ornaments, stockings, etc. Everyone in the family has multiples except me. This may be a little entitled of me, but I genuinely feel slighted. It makes me wonder when that line was crossed that made me distinct from the rest of the core family, so much that I'm not recognized in these decorations. For the record, Mom lives nearby and does have me in decorations. The situation is wholly mine and my sister's. My question is, how can I proceed here? Part of me thinks whatever has happened I've brought on myself by being less present over the last decade. My path forward, then, is to be more present, and hopefully I'll find myself on an ornament in the years to come. Another part of me is like, is it poor form to just bring a decoration and slap it somewhere? I think the answer to this is
Absolutely not.
No,
that's fine.
I think the answer to this is yes.
Winner.
Another part of me thinks, is this just fundamentally ridiculous? I find it
Also
odd.
yes.
Yeah, also yes. I find it odd and just confusing that I'd be left out because my sister and I had such a tight bond growing up. I mean, I lived with her for huge portions of the year when she was 18 to 21 and I was 14 to 17. Like I said, this is maybe very entitled of me. I feel like I can hear it palpably as I type this out. I'd just like some perspective and opinions. Thanks a bunch. Love the show. Best of luck with the new book, Jim. I'll buy a copy of the book if you can swiftly and eloquently say my name. Signed, C. Anonymous. Bam! Nailed that. Nailed that.
In all fairness, you've had time to practice.
Hell yeah, I've practiced that. I was doing it all morning. Buy my book. You're on the hook now. Buy it. Dadvice.com or dadvicebook.com. Go to dadvicebook.com. Buy my book.
All right.
So, Uncle Nick, I imagine that at the Ter Hark residence, you probably don't have a stocking hung by the chimney with care. Does that hurt your feelings?
I don't, but I'm the only sibling. So, like, if there was another sibling that had a stocking, then maybe I'd feel differently about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not something. I guess here's the thing. Like, if I was your therapist, I would ask you, okay, so you don't have a stocking or something, any decorations representing you.
Yeah.
The very next question would be, what does that mean to you?
Right.
Right? Because it's not the event that causes an emotional reaction. It's the meaning that we give the event that causes the emotional reaction. It's always, I don't have a decoration, therefore blank. And whatever you fill that blank with, that's the meaning that you're giving this event.
Yes.
Right? So the next thing we want to do is we really want to look at, do I have enough evidence to support that meaning, whatever it is? Could there be some other meaning behind it? Right? No, so I kind of get like what she's saying as far as, it's not really about the decoration so much. It's more about, does this mean something about our relationship?
Sure.
Has the relationship changed? Is that what this means?
Yeah.
Now, that could be. And I think that's very insightful for you to take a look at that and say, yeah, I get that I've been absent, and my goal is to, get closer.
Right.
Now, one thing I would caution you on, I think that's a great goal. If that's something you want to do and that's something that's important to you, absolutely go for it. Don't set the Christmas decorations as your standard of measurement.
I'll know I've made it.
Right. Because if your standard of measurement is wrong,
right.
you could be building a great, wonderful relationship with her and then not get the reward that you're thinking you're getting. And then you kind of set yourself up to say like, oh, I haven't accomplished my goal.
Right.
When really you have. So, be fair to yourself. Find a more suitable way of assessing your relationship with your sister.
Yeah.
So that's my original thought.
I like that.
However, I do love the idea of taking your decorations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jacob, I think his style is going to be to come in with a flag and just plant that.
Yeah.
This is my tree now.
I would not take a Christmas decoration to the house.
Okay.
I would take a box of them. I would take
custom imprints.
Quite a few Christmas decorations that have different things to do with you, but are definitely you.
Yeah.
And I would put them places surreptitiously.
Yeah.
And never say a word about it.
Just smuggle them onto the tree.
Yeah.
Yes.
There would be like 20 decorations with my face on it. Not just on the tree, around the house. There might be a centerpiece.
A centerpiece.
On the table.
I'm going to put a little figurine of me in the stable. In the nativity scene.
Yep.
Just in there, me, arm around Jesus, pointing.
There might be a little baby Jesus that's just my face. Might replace that as the nativity.
Swap
Jesus.
out the angel at the
That's
top
right.
of the tree.
Just just get as much of me into the show as I can.
It would be everywhere.
I like that strategy.
I'm not against that.
No, I know. I'm not better than that.
I mean, because part of me thinks, like, honestly,
because it's hilarious.
Yes, it is very hilarious, and that is,
and it gets the message across.
Yeah.
Hey, noticed I was a little missing from the scene here. Let me help. Let me fix that.
No doubt, that is 100% how. If this was my,
that's
story,
how you would do it with your sister.
That's exactly how I would do it.
Yeah.
But that's not for everybody.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat with you guys. Yeah, this is probably not the writer's style. I actually went so far as to get to the checkout cart and finally talked myself out of it. I was going to send a cardboard cutout of myself to every family member I have across the country so that I could attend their Thanksgiving dinner with them. Just to make sure they know that I love them and I'm with them in spirit.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that sounds
Why
good.
not? Also, they should all have cardboard cutouts of me.
I think your reasoning there is the only thing that slowed you down. I think if you had started that mission with the idea of this is going to be funny.
Yeah, just go with that.
You would have done it.
Just pull the trigger. Yeah.
But the fact that you were thinking of it all like, this is going to be a nice, sweet gesture, and I want you to know that I
talked
love you.
out of it.
That's what stopped you.
Yeah.
They will enjoy this.
Yeah.
This is for them.
I should have done it for me. Yeah. For years, I have saved somewhere in like an Etsy bookmark file a store that just does oil paintings of whatever you send in, and I want to send in a picture of me and have them do like a huge ass oil painting of me, like in like the red like robe in the armchair with the cigar, and just send that to a family member.
Worked for Trump.
Like just drop hundreds of dollars on this thing.
I found something that it was a targeted ad on Facebook or Twitter or something like that. It popped up. And I was like, this would be a great thing to get for all of my people that I work with.
Yeah.
And it is a life-size pillow that's just you.
Oh, that is
It's a body pillow?
Yes. It's a body pillow, but it's like you send in a picture and they just make a pillow of you with arms and legs and everything. Not like a picture of you on a big pillow, but it's actually cut out like a body.
It's you.
Oh.
That needs to be merch, buddy. Yeah, that needs to go right up on
The
the store.
only reason I didn't do it was like $200 a piece.
Oh, yeah. Worth every penny.
I thought about still doing it for SJ.
Yes.
But even then, I was like, no, that's too much for a joke gift.
If you, no kidding, if you put that on the ICS website,
it will be purchased.
Oh, 100%.
That would absolutely
if there was a way that I could put that on the ICS store, I would.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would absolutely be purchased.
Oh, and the things that the listeners
oh
will
my
do to
God.
those
It'd be like the Flat Stanley of Hey Scoops.
You
might get taken on all sorts of adventures.
You might not want to do that.
Oh, no. You wouldn't be able to talk me out on it with everything that they would do to it, because that just makes it funnier.
Right. That's only selling it. Oh, my God. All right, so writer, in your case, I think, I like and I want everybody to notice how the writer did this. When we're writing stuff out, when we're languaging our concern, we're putting words around our emotion, did you notice how the writer, as they're typing live, kind of explains, now that I'm hearing myself do this, it's starting to feel like maybe I'm overthinking this.
We go like, I hear it.
Yeah, there it is. That was it. Yeah.
That is the power of journaling.
Yes.
That's why I always encourage people to journal and write things down.
Yes.
Because even if you don't get it while actually writing it down, you'll get it when you read it later.
Yes. Or even the process of journaling, I think, is perfect because that's one on none. You can do that on your own. Or talking to a friend, a mentor, a sponsor, a therapist, whatever it is, group, share group. That's what these are. That's why people go to get these thoughts out. Because a lot of times by languaging them, we metabolize the negative energy. And it comes out and we go, okay, this doesn't mean, like what Nick was talking about. What does it mean to you, right? And by analyzing that, you start to divorce yourself from it a little bit, pull back and look at it and go, okay, it's not about that. It's about kids. It's about, their little life or whatever. But, writer, I do think that you make a good point, which is you're starting to look at this and say, okay, the fact that it's not obviously awkward that I'm not represented speaks to the distance in the relationship. It does. It does speak to the distance. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with that, writer. That's okay. It's okay for relationships to grow apart, even with siblings. This just may be new territory for you, and that might be part of the life cycle of the relationship, and that's not bad. It's not broken. It's not wrong. It might just be something for you to observe, not necessarily wrong. If it does bother you, and this draws your attention to the distance in your sibling relationship, and you say to yourself, gosh, I want it to be close enough that this would seem awkward, at least, that I'm not represented, okay, I want you to authentically follow that, right, and rekindle the relationship and make a joke out of it. Hopefully you have that kind of humor with your sibling, where you can say, hey, I noticed everybody's accounted for here on the tree except me. Do you need some help with that? You want me to make you like a ham turkey or something and send that in? Like, you want to do a decoration together? Why don't we go to the paint store and make something? Whatever it is. Rekindle the relationship. I think invest in the relationship. That can make a difference.
Box of ornaments.
Box. Go with the body pillow, writer. That's what I want you to do. I want you to just drop the money on it.
Put a Santa hat on it.
Put it in the corner. Just send that thing in.
Actually, if you just do that, like sneak it in and put it behind the tree.
Yes.
So that nobody sees it until they take the tree down.
Yes. Yeah. No, you want to sneak in the middle of the night, and you want to put it like on the end of a hallway. When somebody wakes up,
stand it up at the foot of the bed.
Yeah. Or put it outside of a window. That way, there's like a silhouette in the morning. People see that. But great letter, writer. And you know what? I mean, I say go for the honest communication on this. But I also like your self-inspection that you're looking at it carefully. And don't forget, I pronounced your fictitious name right. Buy my book. Go to dadvicebook.com. Buy my book. We are going to take another quick break. And when we come back, we are talking about relationships hit by COVID. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Special thanks to this week's producer sponsors, Ellie O'Dare, Judy Schneider, and Mason Miller. Our second question with the theme of Mexico is, which of these...
He's going to be right eventually.
Which of these is not a Mexican state?
Oh, Jesus.
Okay.
They have states?
Yes.
That's not a good sign.
Panama.
Capirotada. Chihuahua.
Oh, come on. That's
Durango.
not real.
Tabasco.
Oh, come on.
Tamaulipas.
It's obviously Chihuahua. That's a dog.
I know for a fact that Chihuahua is one.
No, it's not.
Chihuahua is definitely a state.
It's a dog.
What was the first one?
Let's see. Capirotada. I'm sorry. Capirotada.
Tabasco was one?
I'm going to guess.
Capirotada. Chihuahua.
I'm not going to guess Tabasco because that's too obvious.
I'm going Chihuahua.
That feels like
Clearly.
a joke win, so I'm not going to go with Tabasco because that's going to be a state. I'm going to guess the first one.
Okay.
The one you can't pronounce?
If you would like to join the Theraproducers and make the show possible, you can go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's patreon.com/therapy.
So was the goal to name the one that's not really a state?
The one that's not a Mexican state.
Obviously a Chihuahua.
Chihuahua definitely is a Mexican
Chihuahua
state.
is a Mexican state.
Yeah.
It's a place?
Yes.
It's also a dog.
It is also a dog.
Oh, the C is silent.
Tabasco is also a Mexican state.
Yep, that just felt too easy.
Durango is a Mexican state.
Yeah, I knew that one.
Wow.
And Tamaulipas
Okay.
is a Mexican state.
So
Jacob was right.
what was the one?
Capirotada.
What is that?
A Mexican bread pudding.
There
you go.
Oh, okay.
So there you go.
Could have been a nice name for a state. You named
Could
one
have.
after dogs.
Or the dog was named after the
You
state.
named another one after hot sauce.
Yeah, I think the dog was named after the state.
That's just your opinion. Hi, guys. Times have been tough.
I literally started the sentence with the words I think.
See, that's why he's a therapist.
Agree to disagree.
He's able to deduce.
That's right.
That was
saw
an
right
opinion.
through it. Hi, guys. Times have been tough for my boyfriend and I since COVID hit. We've been together for a little over a year and moved in together just as COVID came to the U.S. He was laid off in June. He has had a few days off of work here and there, but it doesn't last. This has become a problem, not financially, but for his self-esteem. Even though we've never actually told each other how much we make, we both know that I make a little more than he does. I could tell early on that this bothered him a little, but he never said anything about it, and it didn't seem like a big deal. I feel like he had accepted that reality. But then COVID happened, and it's a much bigger deal now that he's not working. I make decent money and can support us, so we're fortunate in that aspect. Things are really tight, but we can make it work. My question is about his self-esteem. He seems to be taking this pretty hard. I say seems because he has never said anything to me about it, but he just seems very defeated when we pay bills or talk about money. I'm not really sure how to approach the situation with him. He's a great guy, and I'd hate to see him like this. Any advice? Anonymous. Good question.
Okay.
I
think a lot of people are probably dealing with this right now.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of folks are out of work or making significantly less money than they were making before. And I think part of this may be a little gender insensitive, but I think this is probably a bigger issue for guys.
Yeah, I agree.
Because men kind of have that breadwinner mentality in a relationship that they feel like they have to be providing more.
Yes.
Sounds like it may have already been a little bit of a touchy subject even before.
I mean, the
COVID
writer
hits.
confesses that we don't have any evidence of that, but there was a sense.
She kind of guesses that.
And the writer says, hey, I think that he had accepted that, but then the COVID thing happened.
Right.
And that's where there was even more of a drop.
That was a bigger problem.
Yeah. I think first things first, I think the most important thing here is actually just being able to sit down and have an honest conversation about it. And everybody just be able to, kind of express, here's some things that I've noticed. I can see that it seems to me that this is bothering you, but, just providing some kind of reassurance. Because ultimately, I think what's probably being hurt here as far as self-esteem is maybe the feeling like she's going to look at me different, kind of more based out of fear.
Okay.
Maybe less of an issue about I should be providing.
Right.
But more of a fear issue of she's going to think I can't provide for us.
Maybe.
That could be part of it.
Could be.
And if that is the case, then you only arrive to that conclusion by having an open discussion about it.
Yeah.
Talking about it, but then being able to provide reassurance. That, no, I understand. There's going to be times where you may be carrying a heavier load than I am.
Right.
And that's kind of what a relationship is. It's never going to be 50-50.
Sure.
It's always going to be one side carrying more at certain times. But overall, the idea is that it balances out.
Right. So to the writer, I have seen this happen now so much throughout the COVID crisis. And it happens on both sides. Both members of the relationship could be hit by this. And I think we can acknowledge that there usually is a unique set of challenges when it's the man and the woman continues to be employed. And again, their gender rules are not rules. They're patterns, okay? But sure, we do see this pattern. And I think that there's a couple of pieces to this. I think I would diverge a slight bit from where Nick went with it, only in the sense I'm a little reluctant to take on the communication head on. A lot of times I'm pro-communication. Okay. In this case, I'm a little reluctant because some of it's based on perception. The writer's saying, I don't know, I'm worried about him. Okay, cool. I don't want to call out the elephant in the room necessarily based on that data. I want to start with your concern. And your concern is, hey, I just want to make sure you're okay. We don't need to sit down and say, so, let's talk about the fact that I make more money than you. That might not need to be said. Like, that might not be the communication.
And that's also not exactly what I was saying.
I like to misrepresent what you say to make my point.
Fair enough.
Yeah, allow me to distort. So this caricature of a point that I'm making that Nick said, now I want to diverge from that. So yeah, I like the idea, though, of recognizing the issue of self-esteem. And this is something very important. Something that I think has been a unique part of the Pod Therapy story. And it's something that we've received a lot of good mail about. is a lot of men listen to our show, a lot of women too, and anybody, in the spectrum, not to identify in two camps. But we've had a lot of men that otherwise would not have been interested in mental health, and we're like, hey, I'm listening to two guys, talk about feelings and shit. Like, this is okay. Like, I can talk about that too. And men who are listening to this, if you've been affected by COVID, if this has caused your economic ladder to fall out from underneath you, I really want to be a voice that challenges you, because as men, society in many ways has done us no favors, in the sense that too many of us identify who we are as a human and our value by what our business card says, by what we do, what our job title is. And I was talking to this with a patient the other day who was struggling with his exact problem. And as a man, he was really struggling with this. And we were talking about his hurt and his anguish and his identity problem and this depression that he's been feeling and his self-esteem. And he's very much in this kind of a situation. And we talked about the fact that, you go to a golf course and you walk up to the, your group here, you're meeting on the course. What's the first thing they ask? Like, hi, ma'am, what's your name? I'm Jim.
What do you do?
What do you do?
Yep.
And that's the number one thing they ask. And women, I don't think necessarily have encountered that same amount of story. It's not always that case, for them. It's very common to ask women what they do. But I think that more and more women don't necessarily identify what they do for a living as who they are, whereas I know for men we're very tempted to do that. And it's very reinforced in society. So I bring that up because there's so many men that can relate to this letter, women too. And if you're out of work right now, it's so important that you remind yourself, for now ain't forever. For now ain't forever. You got to say that every day to yourself to get through this. And you also need to challenge that self-perception that somehow your value or your identity is attached to what you do to earn money. That's not true. That's just a job. If you have to go resurface, tile, or you're putting something on top of something else, you're breaking rocks with bigger rocks, whatever it is you're doing, or you're driving for Uber Eats for a little while, whatever.
You're putting something on top of something else.
Hey, you get paid to stack things. Sometimes people get paid to stack. I don't know
how manual labor works.
I have very soft hands. That's what I'm trying to say. My hands are very well moisturized. I don't know much about this.
It's a paradox.
It's a paradox. But I don't want any listeners out there to misunderstand your human value. What you do to put money in your bank account so that you can, pay bills has nothing to do with your human value. And your current inability to secure a job right now or find something steady does not necessarily have anything to do with you. And I know you know that on a logical level, but you need to know that on an emotional level. You have value as a human being.
I also think it's very unfair of yourself to judge yourself based off of where you are in a fluke situation.
Right.
Yeah. I always, the whole thing, my big motto kind of in life, my philosophy is, and I say this in recovery too, you've heard me say this in a lot of our rehabs, that your recovery isn't going to be judged by how you're doing on your best day. It's how you're doing on your worst, right? And that's kind of how I've always lived my life, is like when there's a challenge, I always kind of reframe it into, okay, here's my opportunity to show what I got and work through it. I think that's generally healthy, but I don't think it applies in a situation like this, where it's like, it's a pandemic. Right. I mean, this came out of nowhere. We haven't had to deal with something like this since 1918.
Right.
It's completely unfair to use this situation as a barometer of where we are in life. So I think you almost kind of have to be able to set this time period apart and be like, okay, right now it's just survival. I'll deal with all the other stuff, with my self-esteem and everything else, dealing with my job at a later time. Right now, I can't blame myself for where we're at in this situation.
Be fair. Be fair.
You need to be able to consider all of these circumstances.
And don't forget, this again is a message to more the perhaps the man in the story. In a second, I have some advice for the writer herself. But to be clear, to the person who has lost that job, again, another thing we're challenging you to do is sit down and reflect on who you are as a person. Write down a list of your qualities. Write down a little bit about yourself. Don't make any notations about income or profession. Describe your personality. Describe your relationships. Describe your history. Describe what kind of person you are. How are you as a friend? How are you as a spouse? How are you as a community member? Write down things you're interested in. Write down things you're curious about. This is the constellation of qualities that defines who a human being is. That's the more robust galaxy of a story, rather than this one particular dot, which is your income and what you do for a living. Okay, that can't be the thing that defines us. And if there's one thing I'm grateful for about the COVID crisis, it's forcing so many of us to confront that thing that was so important to us before. When that's ripped away, we're left with that soul-searching time to reflect and discover who we are as a human again. And you know what? That's hard to do, but it's damn important to do as well.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
I'll tell you, in my world, in the world of artists and entertainers, so many of my peers absolutely take their identity from what they do.
Oh, yeah.
Because what they do, for most people, that's a hobby.
Right.
And I'm in the world where that's what they do for their living. And it's really strange and really hard right now for all of those people who are being told you can't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
This is you got into this thing because this was your passion, this is what you like to do. This might have been a hobby that developed into a living, this might have been whatever. But now, too bad.
Right.
You can't do it. And if you're in a situation like that, it's really tough. It's really tough to figure out then how to deal with that.
And you've probably, I think, defended it for so long. You know, if there's Cirque was a big company. It's huge, and Cirque performers were so common in Las Vegas that they were like featured in water ads. That it was like, hey, your neighbors, probably are part of Cirque. Like, and it was like, haha, yeah, we all relate to that. It's like everybody knows a performer, and there is a personal definition to that, right? Because they've defended the fact that this is something they've dedicated themselves to, and now it's out of business or whatever. And so there's this reimagining of who we are, and so many humans, I think, relate to this exact story here. And again, that's not to disqualify it. I'm not trying to minimize it. I'm not trying it's not happening. I'm saying we have to do that psychological self-inspection and ask deeper questions. We cannot be what we do for a living. Mm-hmm. That's not who you were when you were 10. That's not who you were when you were 15. That's not how the people that love you the most in life define you. They would describe you differently than that. They're not saying, oh, what do I love about him? He's a hell of an accountant. That's not what your son's going to say about you. They know other things about you, and you've got to sometimes see that mirror. Now, this now goes to the advice to the writer, and there's a lot of writer or people out there that relate to the writer, and they might be saying, yeah, I'm really interested in this question because I have a person in my life that's going through this, and I don't know how to support them. Do I say anything about this? Would that only injure their pride? Should I not bring it up? What should I say? I'm not a huge fan of requiring bringing it up. I don't know that you have to say the thing that embarrasses the person in order to address it. If the issue is self-esteem, then I think we as partners, as friends, as spouses can make it a point as part of our care for our mates and our friends to remind them verbally how much we like them, why they're so special to us. When they accomplish something small, they fix the mailbox. Really celebrating that. So, thank you so much for doing that. That was a big deal. God, that's annoyed me for so long, and I really appreciate taking care of that. Oh, yeah, no problem. You did a great job on this, by the way. It looks perfect. I love how you do. Oh, thanks, yeah. Thanks. Yeah, I was glad to get it done. We celebrate small victories, and that's how we rebuild a human. And this is true of all humans. When we're broken in this way, we need to be reminded that we have value to other people, not for what we're doing, not for the job hunt, not for what's going on, for the other little things that we bring. Or just making that point to say, you're so funny, or, I love being with you. Thanks for having dinner with me tonight. Thanks for, this was delicious. Whatever you can do to kind of rebuild them, I think is important. It's part of self-esteem work.
And that could be good.
Yeah.
If you're good at being able to do that.
Yeah. Right.
Because
you don't want to be condescending.
No, because as you're describing this, I just imagine if we worked together.
Yeah.
And you were like, oh, Nick, good job. You did such a good job.
I say that to you all the time.
I know, and it annoys the shit out of me.
I love
Jim
how you stapled that paper.
And not sound like he's talking to an 8-year-old.
Yeah. If you can do it in a way that doesn't sound naturally condescending.
You're such a big boy.
Oh, Nick, you did a killer job tying
Who's
those
the
shoes.
Best therapist?
These shoes are knotted,
Who's the
man.
Best therapist?
Damn, that's a tight knot. Very good. You're ready to go up and down the stairs like a big boy.
So I'm in the camp of let's just be open and talk about it. Jim's saying not so much. You got two pieces of advice.
Yeah, well, okay.
I'm saying get a box of
ornaments and smuggle them into their house. I guess I just don't. If it's not the way this letter is framed, it's not a pressing problem. Okay, it's something we suspect is a problem, and we're suspicious of. Fine, and we're worried about, because we care about our loved one, and we're worried about their self-esteem. And we think it might be about money, and we think it might be about the fact that I'm doing okay and they're not, and that they feel tense when we start talking about bills and money. Okay. I guess I worry about that because I've seen relationships where they try to have the talk, and sometimes it can go really well. But I also know how men can be, and men will often shut down when they're feeling emotional or threatened or insecure, and that doesn't facilitate a conversation. And sometimes women feel like they have to be more and more direct about it when actually you're poking at a wound, and you don't necessarily know how to handle it right. And so sometimes I don't think it's necessary to go that far with it. If the presenting problem is self-esteem, why do we need to spend time poking around the wound that we can't fix? If you want to let him open up about his challenges and his insecurities, I feel like a failure, I feel like I can't get anything done, I just feel so low. Great, that's good communication, right? Because you're receiving. So that's fine.
If you think if he kind of fits into that camp, or you feel like he would be open to having that discussion.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah,
facilitating in that sense of coming to your spouse and saying, hey, listen, I know you're probably going through a lot. I just want you to know I love you no matter what. I am here for you. I think the world of you. This is a moment. This is for now. This ain't forever. And if you ever want to talk about it or just share with me your emotions, I want you to know that this is a safe place. I love you no matter what. And I'm so grateful to have you. Great. That's great facilitation of communication. But I'm reluctant if it goes the other way, where it's like we need to sit down and have a talk. What is it? You don't make any money, and I'm sure you're feeling insecure. Ooh, that's not a great way to approach men. Just don't think that he's gonna go, yeah, you're right. God, I really do. I think he's gonna feel defensive, put off and forced into silence. And I don't want that. I'd rather go straight for, reinforcing self-esteem.
Yep. Sounds good.
Smuggle in a box of decorations.
Yeah.
But great question, Anonymous.
Full body pillow.
Yes. Here at the end of the show, we do have some important announcements. As you are listening to this, if you're listening to this on the regular channel, or just wherever you get podcasts, then it's probably the same day that we are on the Sex Nerd podcast, and we're planning on being guests with them December 10th, unless something goes wrong. And so you can go to YouTube and type in Sex Nerd podcast, and you should be able to see a live streamed episode that is pre-recorded by the time you're seeing that. And you can see us joining Dr. Victoria Hartman on her show. And also, at the end of every year, we do a season finale where we kind of have some fun, and we do some games, and we usually do a little gift exchange where we have some fun in the studio. If you would like to send us a Christmas card this year, we will read it live on air. Whatever you write, even if it is terrible, we will read it. We just want to invite patrons to be part of the celebration at the end of the year. So telling you this now should give you enough time. If you want to send in something, we will make sure to incorporate that into the season finale. You could also just email us and say, hey, Christmas card, and we will read that out loud on the show.
That would work as well.
I also thought about creating like a digital yearbook and letting people sign it.
Yeah, no, we can't get a store up and running, so a digital yearbook probably is not going to happen.
It's probably not going to happen either.
We can barely handle email.
We also got a new review over at Apple and iTunes. We got a review from somebody titled Lights Over Mars. Left us a 5-star review, which is the only reason we're reading it. And it says, great insight and not advice. My only complaint is that I can't afford a Chase lounge to lay in while listening, so I would have given 6 stars, but the seating is uncomfortable. Also not enough tacos. Agreed. Stunning lack of tacos on this show. Thank you so much.
Tacos.
If you want your review read, go up to iTunes or wherever you can review, Facebook, and drop us 5 stars, and we'll read it live on air. Always grateful for that support, and thankful for everybody. Don't forget, my book, Dad Vice, 50 Fatherly Life Lessons, is available at Amazon and Kindle, and in paperback, go to dadvicebook.com, and it will take you right to the Amazon page. Please help me continue to make this a success. I'm so grateful for your support, and hopefully you find it endearing and interesting and, worth a little read.
Whatever you do, don't go to Dad Vice. What is it? What's the website?
Dad Vice Book.
Whatever you do not go to dadvicebook.com, buy Jim's book, and then send in videos of yourself just slowly ripping the pages out of the book and throwing them into
that would be bad. Don't do that, please. Don't start a bonfire.
Don't do that to Jim.
That would be horrible.
I'll tell you right now, Jim can't handle it.
Or drawing in the book. I don't think I could handle that. In fact, I don't even want you to dog-ear the pages, okay? Even that bothers me.
So whatever you do, don't send in videos of using that book to do things like hammer in a nail, for instance.
Right, exactly.
Or putting a coffee cup on top of it. That would bother me too. Don't do any of that. If you would like to support our show...
Probably best to not buy it.
Yeah, no, go buy the book. Buy the book. Buy the book.
You're probably going to be too tempted to do all of those
Go to dadvicebook.com. Also, you can join us at patreon.com/therapy. As of this recording, we have some new folks to welcome to the team. We recently expanded our Theraproducer category, and immediately people seized upon the opportunity. There are only 16 slots. When they are gone, they are gone. And remember, our Theraproducers get mentioned in our ads as well as thanked at the end of every show. They are the people that really carry the heft of the financial burden of the show to make sure this is continuing and that we can continue to grow. We want to welcome, as of this taping, our newest Theraproducers, Mason Miller, Scott Jameson, and Carolyn Albert, all wonderful people. Mason continues to whoop everybody's ass in fantasy football. He's part of our Pod Therapy Fantasy Football League, and also commented on Twitter whenever we shouted out and said thank you. By the way, if you patron us at patreon.com/therapy, go to our Twitter. We will always thank you on Twitter the same day. No matter what level you give at, we will always shout out to you on Twitter at least, usually at Facebook. So don't forget at PodTherapyGuys at Twitter. We always thank everybody. But Mason's funny because he put out a tweet when we thanked him, and he said, $20 a month is way cheaper than my copay, and I get 2 therapists and a life coach out of it, so this is fantastic. So I'm getting 8 hours.
That's awesome.
So great, way cheaper than your copay. Scott Jameson's also the one that started this mess because he wrote us on Patreon and said, why aren't you expanding the Theraproducer thing? I want to give you money. And we were like, all right, Scott, ball's in your court. Okay. So very grateful for all of you guys joining the team.
Yeah, and thank you, Carolyn. She's been with us since the beginning.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And stepped it up. So very grateful to everybody who supports us at patreon.com/therapy. And we want to thank our bosses, the Syrupy 16.
Syrupy.
I thought it was saccharine.
I like saccharine.
It was, but I changed it because I wanted to hear more syrup.
I think you changed it because you can't spell saccharine.
It doesn't matter.
The Syrupy 16, the mysterious and shrouded Illuminati members of our fan club, the Theraproducers. Thank you, Smitty Scoop, Jake Schneider, Robert Brownie, Jr., Mint, Kayla Lansbury, Ellie O'Dare, Judy Schneider, Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, Dr. Ben Dawn, Crazy Banana Scoop, Mason Miller, Scott Jameson, and Carolyn Albert.
If you'd like to hear this episode uncut and unedited and enjoy our spontaneous side projects, go to patreon.com/therapy. And thank you for supporting mental health.
That's all the time that we got for this week's session. We want to thank our landlords, the Ice Cream Social Podcast, and thanks to those of you who contributed to our show today. We really appreciate it. Remember, Pod Therapy isn't something you should keep all to yourself. Share this episode with someone who needs it by opening the episode's description in your podcast app, copying and pasting the link provided into your social media. Don't forget, you can find us at facebook.com/podtherapy, on Twitter at PodTherapyGuys, at patreon.com/therapy, on Instagram at PodTherapyGuys, and of course, don't forget Jim's book at dadvicebook.com.
Do you want to submit a question to the show? Ask anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. I'm Nick Tangent.
I am Amazon best-selling author Jim Jobin.
Thanks, and we'll see you for your appointment next week.
Hopefully. Dadvicebook.com. Go to Dadvice.
Hopefully, because we haven't tried to leave the studio yet.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. If we can get back out of this
We might still be here.
Yeah. Nick, I'm going to hoist you into that vent.
In the studio.
Yeah.
Well, I have to pee. Do you still have that bottle of Malort?
You don't even have to empty it out. That's fine.
No,
just contribute. Just top it off. That's a secret.